Hello and welcome. This is Crossing Bridges Talk Show. I'm your host, Larry Montgomery Sr. This is my co-host, William. Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm William Lamont Montgomery, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so you're getting that announcement down. Now, why don't you make your announcement now so we get in the beginning of the show.
Outstanding. So for all our viewers that participate and watch us weekly, if you have any topics that you would like to recommend to us to be premiered on the show, please shoot us a comment in the comment box, and we'll try to get that scheduled in. Thank you very much.
Okay, and you can join the conversation if you're interested. Just make the request and we'll send you the link. If we can't get you in this week, we'll hold that part of the conversation for next week. Okay, so now we've done that. This week, I wanted to talk about the N-word. We all know what word that is. That would be the Negro, nigger, or nigga, the ER or the A, whichever ending you want to have. And because it's becoming it's a common word now, and it shouldn't be used commonly for many different reasons. If you really want to think about it, it's really a word that should never be used, period, because of what it represents and what it stands for. You can define it either by Google or Webster or whatever, and I'm not going to do that for you. You can look that up on your own. But I think that understanding its history and how it came to pass and how we use it today, we need to be at least aware of it. I'm not Mr. Policeman, and I'm not going to sit here and, tell you what words you should and should not use. But at least I can give you some information. And if you consider it, you might pass that on. Because until it becomes ingrained in our culture, it's going to continue to plague us with these mixed messages. And Will, I know you had some comments you wanted to make on it, so I'll let you start out there. I'm going to eat my snack, but you go on.
Okay, that's fine. Well, yeah, the N-word is a very complex word. You got some people use it for humor, some people use it for disrespect, some people use it for entertainment purposes. It's some people use it as a gesture of friendship. It has taken on a whole different life form, or many life forms, I should say, from its inception. Originally, it was not a good word, and it wasn't intended to be a good word. It was intended to describe people in a negative manner. Majority the people of color, such as myself or anybody else that didn't have the right color at the time. And so we were identified as being the N-word, and to, subjugating somebody, demoralizing somebody. You're not calling them a child of God. You're not calling them my friend, my homie. You're pretty much referring to your piece of property or somebody else's piece of property when they use that term, when they used it. And more formally, the word that ends with an ER, the N-word that ends with an ER, when that's completely said out, it really strikes a chord in people. And people of color know that, and we've, if you're talking to your friend and they use the N-word with an A, then you're not as offended as you would be if there was an ER sound at the end of it. It strikes a chord, so to speak, because it's different. It just, whether you've never heard it before, if you heard it in the right context, you would feel it. And
okay. I want to give some background there because I think it's important right now. Hold on.
Okay.
If you truly knew what the N-word meant to our ancestors, you'd never use it. It was used and still can be used to make us hate ourselves. And this is from an article I Googled
Hmm.
a few years ago, and this is from the author's perspective. A few years ago, I read Slave Narratives to explore the lives of Black agricultural workers after the end of the Civil War. The narratives came from the Federal Writers Project of the Works Progress Administration, a program that employed researchers from 1936 to 1938 to interview former enslaved people, producing more than 2,300 narratives that thankfully reside online and are fully researchable. Okay, those who the law defined as property recounted various unique human experiences, their daily horrors and monotones, how they freed themselves or learned of their emancipation, the surge of exhilaration upon securing freedom, and how they endured life on the edges of a white supremacist society in the decades thereafter. As I guess it's poor. No, as I pored over the narratives, I was struck less by their experiences as heart-trending as they were, than by how their experiences sculpted their self-perceptions. The best explanation of what I gleaned, what social scientists call internalized oppression, describes the psychological trauma that ensures when a person from a stigmatized group believes those negative stigmas. White folk indoctrinated them into accepting their supposed inferiority. These narratives illustrate the success of this campaign of mental terrorism, and no word conveyed the depth of this internalized oppression more than nigger. How now, whenever I hear the epithet, a visual and emotional representation of the heinous process by which a people, my people, were induced to think they were less than trespassers into my thoughts. After years of habitual use of nigger, I banished it from my speech to honor the humanity that many never saw in themselves. I'm gonna stop right there. A part of the point that I wanted to make was the history of the word. This word was derived specifically for a purpose. It's like if your name was Joe, I'm gonna call you stupid. So you're just stupid. You're no longer Joe. You're just,
Hmm.
and so here, and then society defined the word stupid. So everybody knows what stupid means, and you're it.
Hmm.
And everybody uses it in order to explain that definition, to justify that definition. Oh, niggers are lazy, niggers are stupid, niggers are nasty, and so on and so forth. And I don't know what made these people think, other than the fact that this is the kind of people they are. I mean, you can't help who you are. You really can't. You know, you might try to mask it. You might try to avoid yourself, but deep down inside, that's who you are, because it took all of you to buy into it. And you can't tell me, oh, you didn't know any better. You can't tell me, oh, well, everybody in the household was using it, so I had to use it too. You have a mind of your own. And if you step back and gave it up, that's on you. That was your decision to make. You know, we sit here and we talk about white superiority. I don't know, and I'm about to go ballistic with that one. You know, I don't know who told you you were superior. I don't know who told you that because you have yet to prove it. Anything and everything you people do is always for the wrong purpose with the wrong motive. And it's not that you don't know better. Because if somebody did it to you, you'd have a problem with it. You'd be the first one to talk about, let's go to court. The first one to call a cop. The first one to grab a gun. You know, and it's just sad that people sit here in this day and time and still hear parents, children, cousins, neighbors, or whatever talk about Black people like we are some tool or something, and you don't say anything when you know better. The stupid ones are just stupid. You know, you can't fix stupid. You can't do nothing about that. You know, but you know better, and and there's a reason why you know better to tell them that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And the thing is that in punishing and brutalizing people, and then adding to the insult of naming them something that you just made up for a specific purpose of keeping them down and keeping them separated. You know, it's just, you know, I really don't know who thought that makes sense. You know, we've talked on this show about why am I here type of a thing. And I don't know who's answered that question for themselves, but I'm still asking that question. And in answering that question, there's nothing in there that says anything about this ignorance of white superiority. Nothing. So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
um, no, that's perfectly fine. I mean, you know, this is why we have these discussions, because getting to how it actually impacts an individual of color is knowledge from other people. Because you have some people that grew up listening to it in rap music, which, you know, I was one of them. You know, before that, it was in movies. You know, in Superfly. You know, and,
Still having that. Yeah. Still having that problem with your phone. I don't know if it's coming across on the recording or not, but you know, when I pick up on it, I'm let you know that I'm having that problem.
Okay.
Let me throw something in here real quick because I wanted to make this point that the word nigger, in today's society, we have two different contexts, really three different contexts in which we speak of that word. And you alluded to it earlier with the nigga with the A at the end, or nigger with the ER at the end, pretty much defining it for those who use it to kind of put it in a context that separates and differentiates it from its real meaning. I can understand, and I speak for my generation, that when the word became popular, either with the A or the ER, it was within the context of, if I got a problem with you, it's an ER.
Mm-hmm.
If it's love I got for you, it's an A. Okay. Now, we may understand that amongst ourselves. And clearly, and then there's the third, which also leads to the fourth context. The third context would be a person who is not Black or not a Negro or not an African American using the word. Now, the two points there. One, using it in the context of, well, you know, I'm just letting people know that this is my friend and that I got nothing but love for. So I use the A. And then if I have a problem with somebody and I got to show them that I've been disrespected, I'm going to use the ER. hello. You should not open your mouth and use that word, period. Because you know that it's nothing but a derogatory term. And just because I may be foolish enough to use it does not justify your using it. If you love me, if I'm your partner, your friend, or whatever, use that word. I love you. That's a phrase, I'm sorry. This is my partner here. Another phrase. It's my guy. Okay. This is my brother from another mother. Okay. Nah, this is my nigga. They'll be looking for all your teeth on the floor. All of them. Not one of them, but all of them. Because we don't roll like that, and we will never roll like that, because number one, if you, being white, said to another white person who had a problem with black people that this is my nigga over here, do you think that you two ain't going to be on the same page? He may not do anything at that moment. He may wait till later on to catch you on the side of the road or something and explain to you that don't do that again. And this is why we don't like black people or whatever, that foolishness. And the next time he sees you and that black person is going to be on and popping. Don't even go there. You're looking at an idiot, realize it's an idiot. I'm not going to stand there and have a conversation with you. I'll be cordial. I'll be polite. There's not going to be a conversation, and it will get rough, if it's got to go there. Because you can't fix stupid. I mean, it's down in the DNA, man. When they label you stupid, ain't no fixing that at all, period. You can't get away from it. And the sad thing is that you're going to pass that ignorance on to somebody else. Some unbeknown child you're going to create is going to grow up around you and be infected by that stupidity in you. Kids can't help it. It's not their fault. There's been a lot of talk around about racism should be, and we had this conversation, should be considered a mental illness. Well, then half the white population will be considered mentally ill. And what are we going to do then? We'll be overwhelmed. Kind of like this pandemic. We're just overwhelmed. Have to wait and hope that it goes away on its own, which is not going to happen. Got to do something. So anyway, so there's 4 different contexts to use that word. And if you're not a scholar, why bother? Don't use it. Then you don't have to worry about confusing somebody about it. You don't have to worry about explaining it to anybody. You're my son. I don't have to have that conversation with you about that word until I know that you're on your way to do you. As long as you're in the household, listen, we don't use that word. If you hear it in the street, don't bring it home. Mm-hmm. If you got a question, ask me. Yep. But when you're on your own, maybe I better explain it to you before you go, so you'll understand. People who use it are stupid or ignorant. Stupid meaning that they can't help themselves. Ignorant meaning that they don't want to know the truth behind it. The word was designed to psychologically damage you and to use that same psychology to build themselves up. And when it finally, the tide turned, it was so, when slavery was over, it was so ingrained in them and us that we continued to almost act the same way. They didn't have to put chains on your hands and use rods and whips to beat you to work. You did it anyway. Working is good. I'm not talking about legitimate working. I'm talking about being forced to do something that clearly you could be doing better than this. you know. And I could understand how late in the 60s and the 50s and the 60s, more like the 60s and 70s, when jobs were coming, and a lot of black folks didn't want to take those jobs. Some jobs they didn't want to do, you know, because not that it was demeaning, you know, like flipping burgers or something like that. It's not demeaning. It's a good job. But when you see yourself as someone who has been deprived of your abilities and been named and labeled as someone who's stupid, you know, why would I want to voluntarily continue that? All I can do is flip burgers. I'm 40-something years old, 50 years old, 160 years old. I'm flipping burgers. That's for young people to do when they're first coming out, learning to work, learning what it is to have a job. People who have children should be making a living, and flipping burgers is not going to help you make a living. You know, keeps you off the street, some money in your pocket. You can't pay much rent anywhere. So you're going to have a certain lifestyle. You know, thank God for parents that let you have a room and maybe pay rent. Otherwise, you'd be out in the street or sleeping on a bed in a room with a bunch of other people that you don't know. You know, I'm not saying that it's derogatory, but I don't think you want to go to school to learn to be a productive citizen and find yourself with, that's the only thing I can do is flip burgers and sleep on a cot somewhere, because I'm not going to get rich doing this. I'm not even going to have a life doing this forever. You know, a few months, a couple of years, get through college. Yeah, great. Honest work, honest living. Get your skills together. After that, you got a family. You need to be doing better than that. Really. Especially if you went to college. You're supposed to be doing better than that. You know, not saying that you can't get a job working for the government and not have a college education and do very well. Not saying you can't have a trade and do very, very well. You know, but you got to figure it out. In this word, this N word, you just leave that off the shelf. Nah, can't use that word. And I don't want to hear it. And I don't want to be around anybody who uses it. It's just foolish. Guess I kind of went off, huh?
No, I mean, you carried it very well. I mean, like I said, it's the word was there to mentally oppress. And then when you turn around as an African American or Black American or a Black man, however you associate or affiliate yourself, young person, old person, man of color, woman of color, when you turn around and you use these words, that it affects the younger generation because they think that it's okay. But then as they grow and they learn and they see things and they hear things, and it's like, well, why? You know, it adds to a level of confusion. You know, oh, my uncle, he say it all the time. My auntie, she always cussing this person out and using it. It's just what we do. But that don't make it right. You know, I mean,
Right.
It's a word. You have a vocabulary. You have all kind of words that's out there in the world to be able to use to describe something. So why would you want to limit yourself to something that's going to mentally scar somebody? Because if you're not scarred by it, then, I mean, you're using it for, you know, for the glitz, the glam of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, oh, that's, you could have said that car was, oh, like, that's my man. Nah, I want to take it to another level. I don't want to say that's my man. That's my nigga. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to add some flair to it or whatever. You know, it sticks in people's minds. But at the same time, like I said, you're breathing life into this word that was created to bring our people down.
Let me offer this here, another point here from the article. The internalized oppression revealed itself in various ways. Sometimes the former enslaved people clearly, perhaps subconsciously, considered themselves subhuman, just like how their former owners regarded them. Jim Allen, for example, dubbed himself his master's pet nigger boy and a stray, and thought himself privileged because he could sleep on the floor beside his master's bed. That's a problem. And, and it just rips my heart out to think that someone had found themselves earnestly believing that my situation is so bad that I have stepped up in life when I could sleep on the floor next to my master's bed. I mean, I can't wrap my mind around that. And it just makes me so mad that there are people out there who thought that that was right on both sides of that question. The one who called himself the master and the one who accepted the fact that I'd rather be dead than to live like that. You say, oh, well, life is precious. I know. And that's how mad it makes me to know that people had to be broken down to think that this was life, that just because I can walk around here and breathe was sufficient, while you set yourself up as some master. And they benefited from it all of these years. That little sharecropper farm they had or whatever, the plantation, and then the plantation sped off money for business investment and stock market investment and things like that there, and their children start to thrive and they become college educated, and then they socialize with the rich and the famous and whatever, and it just goes on and on. And suddenly we're sitting here a couple hundred years later looking at ourselves saying, wow, life zipped by. And I was always considered a second-class person because of the color of my skin. And you had a privileged life because you abused people like me because of the color of our skin. And when you look around, you can't do one thing better than me. Not one thing. And so, yeah, a lot of them have a reason to be afraid of Black people. And that's a good thing, because they should be afraid because of the kind of people that they are, where you came from, what you know, how you live. 90% of it is because you people benefited from enslaving us. But, and then we have our own people. And I'm not going to be disparaging of, the rappers, they saying foolishness and getting paid. But the reality is the people who make the money don't look like you or me.
Oh.
And I'm not just talking about the executives and the owners of these record companies or whatever. I'm talking about the people who have the money to buy your record. Because if every Black person in America put all of the money they had into buying records, many rappers would be broke in the street. Because we just don't have that kind of money. The best we could do is 10%. Because that's what we represent here. So you're rich because white people buy into the foolishness that you keep spewing about your own people.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's and these guys, P. Diddy and 50 Cent and Jay-Z and all these bunch of idiots who got paid. Steve Harvey. You know, what, Steve? You can host. That's what you do, man. Now you out there giving advice for married people, and you on your what second wife, third wife? Oh, that's right. You had her, you dropped her, you got a new one. Now you dropped her, and you got another. You got back. Total chaos. But you up there giving out advice. You know, man. You know, hey. At the end of the day, the only ones really paying for you is people that don't look like you. Yeah. And so they got an agenda, period. Oprah, you know, oh, she's got billions of dollars. Yeah. And she caters to who? You? Really? But anyway, you know, I'm not going to be a hater. I'm just going to be realistic. You know, you're getting used and you're using us.
Yep.
And you think that you're helping. You're not helping. You're not helping. You know. But anyway,
that's what it is. Is if you get people that's famous, that people, you know, see as an icon and this, that, and the other, and you have them put your message out, because that's the only way you're gonna pay them is if they're saying stuff that you want them to say. You know, they're not gonna. I mean, you don't see them going out there giving Farrakhan a record deal. You know what I'm saying? You don't hear, I mean, you don't see people that they don't agree with, you know, who have followers and this thing. You don't see them going out there getting them to go on shows and pay them big money because they don't want them to be heard.
Well, I know Farrakhan, you know, I don't listen to a lot of what he says, but everything I have listened from him has made sense.
Yeah.
It's always been in a direction on the context of being, you can help yourself. You can do this for yourself. You don't need to depend and bow down to anybody else. Help yourself, you know. And okay, so you're Muslim, Islam, however, fine, that's how you believe. I'm Christian, that's how I believe. Still understand the difference between bowing down, you know, and letting someone else just give me a fish as opposed to teaching me to fish for myself. I understand that clearly.
Yeah.
And then we have our folks, like we're talking about, you know, these rich black folk, you know, sitting up there like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. I got a couple of brothers out here shining my shoes and washing my car. Really? That's making a difference. Yeah. But could you do better? Yeah, you could do better.
I mean, you know, I'm not a hater. I'm sorry, but I'm not a hater. But a lot, if you peel back the layers of the onion, you know, you start to see that sometimes it's the wealthy people that are the same color as me, you know, that are screwing over the people that look just like them even harder than, you know, before. Because I mean, you look at some of the deals that these artists get, and they're signing with their homeboy that they grew up in the hood with, and then, you know, they find out later on that, man, they was robbing me. It's like, wait a minute, this is your boy, this is your home. But they learn their piece of the game and they exploit the people behind them that don't know, instead of saying, hey, look, I got screwed on my deal. I'm gonna sign you. I ain't like, one person I gotta, you know, give much respect to is like Master P. You know, hence the name Master P. You know, he's from Louisiana, you know, for those people that don't know. But he gave his artists houses. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, stuff. He did things differently, even though people wasn't understanding the whole thing behind that, owning something. You know, some people, you know, find value in the dollar. You know, but somebody giving you a house and stuff like that where you own, you know what I'm saying? That's contributing to your wealth. Whether you can spend $1 million a year, you can't spend a house. I mean, you can sell it, but you can't spend it. You can always go and I spend all my money. I can go lay down in my bed.
Right, right. I mean, the point is that when we think about, well, I'm helping, did you really think about it? Did you really think about it? And can you do better? Because again, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
Why? What's the purpose? Oh, well, I can amass millions and millions of dollars. Yeah, you could. And then what? Leave it behind?
Mm-hmm.
Who? All of those people, those few people in your circle who didn't work as hard as you did to get the money, now they can spend it. You worked for it, and now they spend it. When if you used it wisely, you still would have a good life.
Mm-hmm.
And so would those people who worked for you. But then you would have put it out there for others to also benefit and do the same thing, live a good life, and spread it around. Because it's not just about me. It's about this next one, But anyway.
I mean, even if you wanted to think about it for yourself, wouldn't you want to have a legacy? Like, I did this for not just me, but for the people, the people that couldn't do for themselves. I put the people through school. I gave them something that they couldn't get, without my assistance. You know what I'm saying? That's a meaningful thing. That's something, if you believe in God, you know what I'm saying? Why not put yourself in a position where he looks down and says, hey, you did more for other people than you did for yourself. So I'm gonna bless you more because you did more. You didn't have to. You could have turned your back like other people have done.
Mm-hmm.
But when you turn around and you say, no, I'm not going to leave my brother behind. I'm not going to leave my sister behind. I went to school. I got a trade. Or if I went to college and I got $100 million deal, you know what? But my cousins, you don't want to go to college? Hey, I'm going to put you in trade school. I mean, you're going to need to get something. You're going to put this work in so that you can have a better life. And then maybe once you get done with school, then you can come work for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not just scraping and scrounging. You certified, and whether I'm there or not, you can go earn a living, become wealthy. But when people don't do that, it's like, well, I got mine, you ain't got yours. Sucks to be you.
Yeah. And we can't just sit around and talk about it. We have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we go back to when you have children around and you tell them to do the right thing, and then you constantly doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do as I say, not as I do. Well, that's just plain foolish, and it's not going to work, because if they see it, they're going to do it. Because if it's right for you to do it, it's got to be all right for me to do it because it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
And when you tell somebody not to do something, what's the first thing you're gonna do? And I'm like, I'm gonna go do it.
Right.
So it's like, you got to really start opening up to the people and saying, being real, like, you know what, hey, I made some mistakes, but you could be better than me. If you want to be better than me, I can show you where I failed at. You know what I'm saying? I'm opening up myself, exposing myself to you so that you can see that I'm not a perfect person. I don't profess to be perfect. I'm not trying to say, hey, you need to do this and that. But if you want to be better, there's a way to get to be better than I, and then if you do that for the next person, or if somebody else that's further along pulls you up or shows you the right way or whatever, you can get further along, but if we all share, we can get there.
Have the conversations. We got to talk about it. We got to open up, as you say, and let people understand that, yeah, well, I tried this, and it worked, didn't work, whatever. And this is why I tried it. I saw this, whatever. Yeah. And give them an opportunity to say, well, I'm not going to make that mistake, but if I'm interested, I'm going to do it this way, and whatever. Yeah. And then pass that same information on. We just don't have to continue to sit here and just continue to say, well, woe was me, and when is my day going to come? Damn it, your day is here now. This is your day. Take it and do what you got to do to make it work for you, And then, don't be afraid to look to your brothers and sisters to help you. And brothers and sisters, don't be afraid to say, well, let me extend a helping hand.
Mhm.
You know, because if I help them, That's good. That's a good thing. You know, maybe when I need some help, someone will help me, you know. And it's not about, well, black and white. You know, so, well, you know, white people will help you too. Yeah, I understand. But we need to help ourselves. We need to get that understanding in our DNA. We got to help ourselves. Sitting here waiting for someone else to help you. They're not helping you. They're hurting you. And you're hurting yourself, you know, because you just don't get it.
I mean,
But
you grow spiritually when you give. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? When you show somebody that you're giving, you just help plant a seed in that younger person or that other person. Man, you know, I don't have to be cold-hearted. You know what I'm saying? Now, when that starts to grow, guess what? They're getting closer to their, you know, higher power. You know, if they believe in God, they're getting closer because they're learning not to be closed off.
okay. Listen, we're going to have to cut it. Um,
Great conversation.
yeah, what we're going to talk about next week? Part 2?
Well, I mean, we'll see if we got any comments, and maybe somebody wants to join us next week, and you know, we can go part 2 and maybe some recap.
Okay, because I had a lot more in there. I just didn't go over it. All
That's
right,
fine.
so I'm going to
Part
say
2.
good night and God bless. We'll see you next week if the creek don't rise.
Good night and God bless.